Welcome to our Meet the Experts Directors panel. Today, we are joined by Jake Schreier from Beef, Jesse Peretz from City on Fire, David Paul Meyer from The Daily Show with Trevor Noah, Jay Bayona from The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, Nick Murphy from A Spy Among Friends, and MJ Delaney from Ted Lasso and Gutsy. Thank you all for being here. I want to start by going way back. What was the first thing you guys directed? It doesn't have to be professionally. It could just be something you made when you were a kid on like Super 8. Jesse, why don't we start with you?
I got a Super 8 camera during high school, and I think I definitely did a couple like silent mood things or whatever, but my first movie with dialogue was called This Chicken is Phenomenal. And
right, I love it. It's one of my favorites.
And and it has a cameo, probably the most noteworthy thing of it has a cameo by my godfather, Fred Wiseman, as a butcher in it.
Amazing. Where can we see that?
Nowhere.
Not streaming anywhere?
If you
No.
come over to my house and I can find somewhere it's digitized, but I was 16 years old when I made that.
Jay, how about you?
I remember that the first time I had a camera, I was like 12 or something like that. And I wanted to have a camera since I was very little. And the first thing I asked my cousin to put himself in front of the camera, and I asked him to stay there for 10 seconds. And then I stopped the camera. I asked him to leave. And then I keep on recording the camera. And then we watched together the shot. And I saw my cousin disappearing. And my cousin was like 5 or 6. And he was like totally in shock, like, what happened there? And I was like, wow, that's cinema. that's the first thing I did with a camera.
Amazing effects, really. Nick, how about you?
I wasn't that young because I've been intending to be a timber importer. Long story, but I realized I didn't want to do that. I'd been a cameraman and an editor of news and current affairs, and then I was sort of asked to go and follow this fire brigade in Merseyside up in Liverpool, and a cat was missing, I was just directing from there, so I sort of fell into it, and we found the cat, but we didn't find the cat where they expected it to be. It's actually one of the best sequences I've ever shot, because the cat was actually under the video recorder, but they'd ripped the house to pieces and pulled walls down trying to find this kitten.
Oh my
God. It was underneath the corner of the living room. But that was it. I fell into that, and of course I'd love to pretend that everything was just completely smooth after that, but it wasn't. I just did. There's no logic I can retrofit to my career. I just did the best.
It started because of a cat, so
it started because of a cat. I like that. Yeah. That kitten hadn't gone missing.
Yeah. We've got chicken and cat already. So
yeah, right. Yeah.
What other animals will we have? David, how about you?
So for mine, the one that I remember is I ran in high school student class president, I think it was, in my junior year. So I was around 16, and we had to make a campaign video, or like a vote, campaign video. So my friend had a camera. We stayed after school one day and just like in the school hallways shot just ridiculous, nothing about what my platform would be, just like us trying to look cool on the camera. And then I think the teacher helped us put Staying Alive by the Bee Gees on. Somehow we figured out how to put music on the video, and that was and then it was played in high school. We had the TVs in all the classrooms where they had like a central way to play stuff, so they played that was my first screening too, I guess. They played it for all the class, and that was how people could see your campaign video and decide if they wanted to vote for you.
Did they vote for you?
They did, yeah. I won. I beat the other guy's video. Wasn't, I mean,
it wasn't. They didn't have Staying Alive. MJ, how about you?
I also wasn't very young because I sort of fell into this fortuitously. But I used to do backstage filming at London Fashion Week for different designers. It was before it was even stuff going online. It was like when like magazines were doing like iPad versions. And it was such an afterthought, the idea that they'd have these huge big budget stills campaigns with like proper photographers, and then they were like, oh, like I guess have something moving. I was like, I'll do it. Like it was, and I'd run around with a 5D, and obviously it's like 5'11" models in 7-inch heels, and I'm in like trainers, and so I used to run around with a collapsible chair because they always wanted shots of the hair and makeup, but I could never like get to eye level. So I used to, if you ever want to feel small,
brilliant.
run around there. It was like I like uncollapse this chair, clamber up on it, get the shot, and then scurry off with my chair. But yeah, it was great fun.
Oh my God, how heavy was that chair?
It was just one of those little like metal collapsible things. You could put it over a shoulder and then the camera on the other one, and then just sort of like.
That might have made you shorter, maybe. It's like it's so heavy. It's Jake, how about you?
Yeah, I think it was some kind of like Pulp Fiction knockoff interlocking stories thing I did in high school, and I found my old JVC like camcorder, like mini DV camcorder, like cleaning out a storage locker the other day, and the tape marks were still on it from taping it off to be 235. It's very pretentious for a high school kid. So I had to have widescreen. Anyway, not good.
Did you watch it after you found it?
Oh, I don't think the movie was still on. I don't even think the camcorder works. I think it would eat up any mini DV tape you would put in there, but it exists at least still. So it was there.
Well, can you guys think of an instance throughout your career when something in a scene or a shot came alive on screen better than you could have even imagined or storyboarded? It doesn't necessarily have to have been something you thought was going to turn out bad, but it was just the final product, or when you called cut, that was way better than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like and especially on Beef, like there's so many moments with Steven. I mean, that's what's so nice about working with great actors, right? Is that you kind of go into a scene with an idea of what it could be, and then the greatest joy. And especially like I'm a relatively technical filmmaker and like to plan out shots, and it's nice that people can hit beats, but to have an actor that can do that and then bring this whole other side of it that you weren't imagining or didn't expect, and you watch the thing actually come to life. As opposed to
is it just like kind of you thought maybe like a line would be read a certain way, and then they surprise you with their.
Yeah, I mean, I try not to go. I'm sorry, I don't want to. Other people should speak, but I mean, I try not to go in like with a perfectly imagined way of the way any line should be, as long as it feels honest. But then, like when you get to see what that is, and yeah, when it isn't what you were imagining, and you're like, oh yeah, that's even better. It's a pretty special thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think people. You got to go in with a plan, as Jake said, but because people panic if you don't have a plan. But it's when once something better happens, which it frequently does. If we are working with this is why filmmaking is so wonderful, because you collaborate with people who are the experts and make your ideas better. I forget what mine was. I literally can't remember who. When actors have filled a role, I can't remember who I thought might play the role. If I saw a scene a certain way, it's like I can imagine going on holiday, and as soon as I actually see the hotel, I forget what I thought the hotel was going to be like. I'm in the real hotel. I think filmmaking is a little bit like that. I forget, and then I just claim credit for it.
You steal everyone's ideas, and yeah. Jesse.
I mean, I would say, I made it was probably 23 years ago. I made right after the Thomas Vinterberg movie, the Celebration came out. I got money from this company, Green Street Films, to make. They were giving filmmakers $500,000 to make films on digital, but that really, prehistoric digital cameras. So I made an all improvised movie in France with Paul Rudd and Romany Malco, and then a French cast, and it was called The Chateau. And the conceit and how to get the money, you had to pitch something you would never be able to do with 35 millimeter. So I pitched, I will have a French cast, an American cast come together. They will never rehearse together. And there's just an outline of what it would be. And I had incredible confidence about this idea up until about 3 days before we started shooting. And then suddenly the terror set in, and I thought, oh my God, this actually is a lot of money for someone who really, I have no idea what will happen if it doesn't work. But that was probably the scariest thing of like being a vague plan. And then it was all just making, it was like 13 days, we shot the whole feature, and it was like every day writing it as we were making it. So anyways, I don't know if that exactly answers your question, but that was sort of the biggest thing of like, I don't know what it is to really incredibly joyful.
It was kind of like improv-ish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it was all improv, basically.
David, how about you?
Yeah, so before I did the studio directing for the show, I was directing a lot of the sketches, the pre-recorded stuff for the Daily Show. And Roy Wood Jr., one of our correspondents, had this idea that he was going to write a rap song just based entirely on real quotes from Donald Trump. So he wrote this song, and we're like, oh, that's fun. The song was very funny. We're like, yeah, this is funny. This is clever. Okay, let's shoot a music video for it. Okay, cool. So we did a music video, and you know, Roy just really, it was just so epic. We were like, oh, this is way bigger scale, and he just was like, no, this is my thing. He had like a Trump wig, and we had these like locations and everything. But really, what's most compelling is just how serious he was about rapping and delivering those quotes as a rapper. And his performance just, you know, because Trump quotes are already in and of themselves unique, let's say. And Roy just, so it's hard to like one up Trump, right? He's kind of his own. So
he made it art.
Yeah, he's his own. So for Roy to come in and spin him in this new way, it was special. So yeah, that really went way above and beyond what I thought that project would be.
Yeah, sure. J.A., how about you?
To me, I would say the same about the actors, because I grew up very obsessed with the technical aspects of cinema. But the more I work with actors, the more I enjoy directing, you know, and to me would be, there's always a moment when you're shooting a story that the actor disappears and you only see the characters. There is no performance anymore. I remember shooting moments with Naomi Watts and Tom Holland in The Impossible, or shooting in my other films. In all my movies, always there's a moment that there is no performance anymore. And I got very emotional in those moments, because you capture a sense of reality. You always try to feed the actors and give them the space, enough space to allow them to do their work. And when the actors disappear and you only see the character and you see something that feels that is really happening in front of camera, to me is the most wonderful feeling when I'm working.
Yeah, completely.
MJ, how about you?
Yeah, I would agree. I think in terms of like the unexpected happening, I think one of the nicest moments is when you do scenes where it's like the whole crew's read the sides. We know the scene. If you're weeks and weeks into the shoot, you know the characters, you know, like you feel like you know what's coming, and then the actor does it, and there's like this moment when you walk out where the whole crew is just like silent for a moment because they did something totally unexpected. It's not even necessarily that different, it's just so much better than what you thought was going to happen. And it's always like, it's just one of the most magical things. But I was thinking the first thing that came to my head when you said it was you also sometimes get that from like the weather or the light. Like I was shooting a Disney show this year called Renegade Now, and it's about a highwaywoman. We were in this forest and we're all lined up. She's about to like hijack this carriage that's coming over. We've got the two cameras behind her, but we teched it on a completely different time of day. It's like first thing in the morning. We've pumped this forest full of atmos, and then suddenly like the sun comes up and just these beams of light come like pouring through all these tall trees. And it was that thing where it wasn't even just me and the DP, like the whole crew looks at each other. It's like, quick, up the hill. Everyone's like scrambling up the hill to like create this wide that no one had ever planned for. But it was just like, we had to stop what we were doing and film that, because it was just like Mother Nature just kind of showed up, and it was like, we have to get this. So yeah, stuff like that, the unexpected can come, which is always so lovely as well.
Do you guys find the other signal that's happened is not the crew aren't always completely engaged. Most of the crew aren't always completely engaged with what's happening, but you have those moments where you can tell the sparks are drawn in. The guys who are standing on lampstands, everybody has sort of gravitated round to the drama when normally they wouldn't, and even commented on it afterwards. And that's
Those are the
something
magical moments.
you
for
find
sure.
that there's magical
Loads of
moments where
people
you
at your
suddenly
monitor.
feel.
Like,
Sorry, MJ.
people have migrated over to your monitor.
Yeah, there's
Just
that.
you and the
We
script
all.
right, suddenly you've got like a little crowd. It's like, you know, it's going well.
Yeah, it's lovely.
Yeah,
Lovely.
that's
I do something that is very effective. I shoot with music on set. So when you play
I never
music,
do
there
that.
is
Really.
you create like a moment that everybody's in the tone of the scene, and it's so beautiful because everybody's so focusing what's going on because they have a total experience of the sequence. They understand the tone and they are going through the emotion. It's also very helpful for the actors, and it's something that I read that Charlie Chaplin used to do or Sergio Leone, and I started to do in my movies, and I'm totally engaged with that idea. I really enjoy to do that.
What did you play on Lord of the Rings?
Well, I play lots of different things. For example, there was
Bee Gees.
there was a
Staying
scene that
alive.
the rock breaking contest. It was all the dwarves like making this contest where they are breaking rocks, and it's very raw. And I was playing "We Will Rock You" from Queen all the time on set, and all the guys were singing a song quite loud on set. And then when I say action, I turn off the song and we will start the scene. And that gave the actors and not also the actors, but the crew a feeling of what the scene was.
Awesome. Well, lastly, is there a shot or a scene from something else, nothing you've ever done, but just you as a viewer where you saw it and you thought, wow, how did they shoot that?
How do they technically shoot it?
Yeah, or just like how did they get this, they create this shot, you know, this final
There's
image.
at the end of sorry if I jump in. At the end of forgive me if this doesn't answer your question. At the end of Dr. Zhivago, he sees her leave, and it's against this sort of large grey monolithic walls of the Soviet city they're in, and it's a composition I can't work out what made them pick that. It's so incredible, and it's so not a traditional piece of composition, and I don't know why I keep thinking about it. It's the sort of shot I would dream of being smart enough to pick. But it is as your end shot of the movie. It's unpitchable. It sounds dreary. It sounds wrong for a massive movie like that, but it's unbelievable. And I think about that a lot. Where I can't fathom the creative process that went into how great that is, rather than I can figure out how they technically did it, but just his genius.
That it perfectly answers. That's exactly what I mean. Just something that just stays with you like that, and you're like, how did they do that? Jesse, how about you?
Oh, wow. I mean, you know, what's interesting is like, I feel like that the kind of shots that really excite me tend to be much more just about capturing a more intimate moment. You know what I mean? But in terms of like, but those, you know, so whether it's, I don't know, like I was thinking, oh, this isn't a good answer to the question, but like there's that moment in Mauvais Song with like I'm now forgetting the French director's name, but a young Julie Delpy is like running into the train station and she's chasing, and now I'm forgetting the actor's name, so I'm doing a great job telling the story, but he hops on the train and the door shuts and there's this like shot of her in the window, and like those are the kind of things where I'm just like, those are the kind of things that move me the most. And I would say more in terms of the things that I can't even fathom, you know, just like recently I watched Apocalypse Now with my 16-year-old daughter, and that movie is just filled with so many epic moments that you can't even, I just look at that and I'm just, you know, it's where you're humbled as a director, just thinking, I can't even imagine how you have the brain to even be able to begin.
Why do I bother? Why do I?
Yeah. And I mean, I think that to me, in terms of a movie that I truly love, is just filled with those moments that are so humbling to me as a director, just seeing that vision and the ability to execute something on that with so many moving parts, and you know, and such stylistic
And so
perfection.
unpretentious. It's such an unpretentious film. It's just, yeah.
Yeah.
Jake, how are you?
I think pretty much any shot from Y Tu Mamá También, you know, like where, like obviously like Corona's done much more kind of fantastic wonders in, you know, in Children of Men and things after that. But then you go back and watch that film and this sort of blend of, you don't even think of it, and then you realize like how complicated the camera choreography is, and you aren't thinking about that because the moments feel about as lived in and real as what you would normally have to. You'd have to shoot hose down for that. You'd have to just cover it and edit it and find those pieces later, and yet the camera's leading you through their lives and then into the lives of these side characters and making a commentary, and it's all so well put together without any sense of showiness. And I think like the combination of it, I mean, I'm excited about all of those ideas, and to see it all put together, like I remember being like very, very baffled once I kind of started putting that movie together as to how they made it.
Yeah, definitely. David? Yeah.
So I went to USC for film school, and I had one of my professors is just very adamant about us understanding how good we had it compared to previously. So they were like, we have computers, you know, let's just start there. So we watched, I mean, I always loved the opening sequence of A Touch of Evil just because it was just so hard and strenuous to do it. And I know that's kind of like an easy one to throw out there, but I remember like watching it and being like, wow, because it was done in the 50s. And then even further back, we watched A Trip to the Moon, which is like 1902, I think, is very old. And they were like, look at these special effects. And we're like, yeah, okay, whatever, it's going to be ridiculous. But there's actually really impressive stuff that's, you know, all done in camera, or they did some weird processes where just that creativity to where we were like, wow, like considering they had absolutely nothing to work with when you compare to what we have now is like endless resources. It was always, and so they were like, so don't complain to us if we don't give you the nicest camera to make your student film with. So
Look what they did in 1902.
yeah,
So.
yeah, exactly.
JA?
There's a movie that I love. I love to work with kids, and I've worked a lot with kids. And there's a movie that I love from Francois Truffaut called Pocket Money. I think it's the American title. And it's a movie about childhood. It's a movie, there is almost no story. It's just like sequences of kids, long conversations. I still love to go back to that movie and try to figure out how he did that film, because there are long sequences with kids, very young kids, like 5 years, 6 years, where they follow the dialogue, and there are no cuts. So there are scenes made in one shot. And it's incredible how the kids are in that film. And I really love to go back to that film and try to figure out how he was able to get those performances from so with kids that age, that young, you know.
Are you saying kids are difficult? What are you, I mean, no,
Definitely not kids or animals. So MJ, how are you?
I like when, like, there's obviously like the big kind of like the it's like, oh, the big one shot and those big sort of glory director moments. But I remember sitting in Detroit and thinking, like, how on earth did they block these extras? Like when you just see like that, like the unsung heroes, like the AD department, just like pulling something out where it's brilliant in the way that it disappears, where it's just like, you're sitting there thinking, this must have been so difficult. And yet I'm just like on this journey and I'm not even like noticing it, you know. It's like, but it's just, yeah, like I thought of that when you said it, because it was like, it was one of the ones where I left the cinema and was like, I would just love to sit down with the third AD and just ask how they did this.
Just grilled them, but how did you shoot those? Yeah. Awesome. Well, unfortunately, we have to wrap, but thank you so much for your time. Congratulations again on all of your projects, and have a good day.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.